Mousesports are one of the only teams that has been able to consistently beat Grace compositions. So I don't think Mousesports really has to be too worried about a Grace going through.
There's very little Mousesports haven't been able to consistently beat, to be honest. Well, Baron is going to be the first ban.
Yeah,
switcher.
typical ban. Baron off, and then Grumpjaw. These are just the typical first phase ban that comes out. And normally, Mousesports on A side, they have first pick Lyra, Arden, and sometimes even Vox. But Arden has been a huge preference. But with Grace and Lyra open, I doubt that will happen. So I think they're probably going to first pick one of the healers here, or maybe just secure Vox right off the bat.
I would say take Vox, because Vox is one of the only picks that is heavily prioritized amongst both of these teams.
Yeah.
They know that the Lance is the priority captain for Rising Lotus, so I think they can be safe in letting one of them through, but they're going to go ahead and take the Grace first.
Yeah, so Grace locking in that super high. I mean, Grace has the highest win rate in the Vainglory8 so far. Very, very powerful. If you guys haven't had your hands on Grace just yet, it's worth the purchase, in my opinion. When you look at the win rates, Grace is dominant in solo queue. It's dominant in the Vainglory8 as well. But with that locked in, I'll be curious to see what Rising Lotus go for. We've already had the conversation about Vox. What else is a standout pick here that Rising Lotus could look towards?
Yeah, I think what makes sense is they definitely need to secure the Vox, because Vox is very mobile and very good into Grace. And then you can have either Arden or Lyra open, because if they don't take Vox, it can be banned. And they also have the option of playing Arden with Lyra. So instead, they're going to go with Arden here, which is very interesting pick, because they're giving up the healer. They're not going to have a Lyra versus a Grace here, and they're going to take away I'm the Doom's Kesher, which is a very strategic ban on Rising Lotus' part.
Samuel taken away as well. So a lot of junglers being taken off the board. 3, in fact, and Vox already locked in. These guys are starting to rattle through the picks.
Yeah, Vox, obviously, as Sujay was mentioning, very strong into Grace because of the extra mobility and the range, can avoid a lot of those Holy Novas. But now Mousesports, I would expect to see them pick up something that has hard engage. Idris, Glaive, both of those two are really, really strong with the protection that comes out from a Grace, and I would not be at all surprised to see those, although typically FL, usually if you can't get the Vox, falls back to a Gwen.
Yeah, you're right. And normally when they get Vox or Gwen, they actually ban Idris. So the Gwen call was perfect, because that's a pattern that they've shown. And Gwen is stronger than Vox in the early game, but late game Vox excels once he gets more items, etc. And then they're going with a Baptiste here. And Baptiste actually a hero that Rising Lotus has banned in the second phase of their draft almost every time. So now they have Baptiste here, and I think Rising Lotus needs to pick a hero such as CP Blackfeather that can play and be able to match the Baptiste here in terms of range and mobility.
I mean, are we comfortable putting Agony on a CP Blackfeather? He's definitely had the most success on Samuel, but that's been taken away. Do we know if Agony can actually play the CP Blackfeather? He has actually locked it in, so he is obviously going to be comfortable on that one going into this. Well, I'm curious to keep my eye on Agony during this game to see how effective he's able to be on the CP Blackfeather.
Yeah, it has the really good poke, as long as you can land the on points. I feel like if you're comfortable on Samuel, you should be comfortable on Blackfeather as well, because it is still that big straight line, that Malice and Verdicts are, as well as on points. So it's really, this one's just going to come down to who lands their poke first and who's able to land it continuously.
Yeah, now looking at the drafts then, looking at the compositions, how are we anticipating these two teams kind of looking at this game and moving forward? What are the win conditions going to be? How do they have to play this one out?
Mousesports definitely has a stronger early game composition. Baptiste, along with Grace, is extremely strong early. However, mid to late game, Blackfeather outscales Baptiste and outpokes him. So Rising Lotus has a chance if they get to late game with Vox and Blackfeather, but I feel like Mousesports is going to take this game because they have Grace. So I'm going to give it there.
Yeah, I mean, Grace Baptiste on its own is a terrifying combo when you put that in the hands of Mouse as well. I mean, is there a ray of hope here for Rising Lotus?
The ray of hope is going to be specifically outplaying. Both of these compositions are extremely similar in what they're trying to do. It's a lot of poke from your junglers, and then just long, drawn-out fights, sustained damage from your carries, with a bit of protection from and zone control from your captain. So it's almost identical identities within the composition, so it is just purely going to come down to the actual mechanical abilities of the players.
All right, and a lot of that is going to be in the hands of Hell's Devil. He's the guy to watch in this game. We'll see how he can perform on in this one. Get involved on social media, hashtag Vainglory8, and let us know whether you're a Mouse supporter or whether you believe in the Rising Lotus comeback. With that, it's time to head on into our first game and hand it over to Action Jackson and Jaws.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome, and thank you very much for your analysis, guys. I cannot wait for this one. Grace is coming up for Just Man, and Mouse looking so dominant as we get into the fold for the first game of this evening.
And man, Mousesports, I'm sure they got a lot to prove in this first game. They just want to take home another win, get to day number 2, and say, yeah, we're gonna go all the way again 3 weeks in a row. On the flip side, though, Rising Lotus, I mean, this is a team that's had kind of an up and down road, not just in this season, but historically, this is a team that has sort of randomly, it feels like, had good performances some weeks and kind of rough weeks other times. And I do think, if any team is the team to beat this season, it's Mousesports. So it's an opportunity for Rising Lotus to show that they've really been working hard on improving their game. Now, looking specifically at the team comps and drafts that we're seeing here, obviously Grace coming out with Batiste that's an insane couple of pickups for Mousesports. They aren't just mechanical gods. They've managed to make the draft work for them as well. On the other side of the fold, we've got this Vox Blackfeather combo. That is a lot of damage. They're packing the ability to take people down fairly fast. I think a lot of it's going to be down to Hell's Devil, though, right? Like, Vox is a hero that, yeah, you need a lot of skill to play, but no matter what, it's going to be hard to play that hero if your captain isn't really providing appropriate levels of support for you, especially against something like a Batiste, which has a huge ability to disrupt fights. We got the Trian getting taken down here. Rising Lotus, they don't want this one to go across.
No, they do not. They're both flaring each other out. Just Man has found Agony. That's going to go over, and it's going to go over to I'm the Doom.
Oh,
they
boy.
secure it. That Ordain lands onto Hell's Devils, and this could be first blood. I'm the Doom trying to chase him up, but Just Man just swings his club, picks up the first blood.
We've seen this quite a lot in the past couple of weeks, where teams will contest the Elder Treant at really awkward times when they don't have good vision or good positioning, or a duo that can really appropriately deal with it. I do think Agony might have got both of those, though. Pretty strong stuff. Here comes the fight.
Look at Agony's going really low, though. That Ordain's going to come through. Nice Holy Nova. They're actually going to trade 1-for-1. Just Man picking up his second kill. Hell's Devils couldn't be much more of assistance after that Vanguard was used, but Just Man coming up big already. 80% win rate on this Grace. It's looking strong so far.
Yeah, maybe they'll just swap the Grace into more of a damage position. I mean, Batiste can go captain, right? Why not? But
Swap him. Why not?
I think there maybe a little bit of overextension for I'm the Doom and the other Mousesports members. I think they were trying very hard to snowball their lead, which, you want to do when you can, but against the Blackfeather with 3 crystal bits, he actually does pretty respectable damage early on. And also, Arden does better damage than you might anticipate early. So they went a little bit too deep for my liking.
Oh, Hell's Devils
boy.
just caught up again. Holy Nova into the Ordained. The combo was like it was made for each other, AJ. Hell's Devils is going to be able to run away. Apfel can't really chase him up, but a bad mojo will finish the kill. I am the Doom. Striking another one on the board for his team. 3-1 thus far. Agony trying to make a swift exit, but Just Man is going to come through with another Holy Nova. Here's I'm the Doom. That Ordains off cooldown. There it is. Agony in a lot of trouble. Trapped between 2 members of Mouse. Pops those boosts. Vanguard here for Hell's Devils to keep him safe, and he dashes towards the Treant to get away. Mouse just seemed to be in firm control right now with Rising Lotus's jungle.
Yeah, that was a really nice invade. They did find a lot of damage onto Agony, but Blackfeather is quite slippery even before he gets his ultimate. You got the slow as well as a dash that you can do if you're in the jungle onto things like the back Treant. So that does enable him to be a little bit more difficult to take down. Mousesports are starting to push the tempo quite hard here, and part of the reason they're able to do that is that they were able to shop a little bit earlier there. They were able to transition from Batiste just having a couple of crystal bits to actually having a heavy prism. That does give them the ability to fight a little bit more easily. Also, Apfel's now got attention bow. Something else we got to mention at 4 minutes. That's pretty early. He's farming effectively. And as a result, if Mousesports want to go for some skirmishes, they're actually in great position to do that.
I mean, that tension bow, we kind of talk about it all the time, but building into the poison shiv you can imagine he's going to next. It's going to be a massive problem here for this Vox in the lane. He's got his poison shiv already, but that burst damage from the Gwen is just so hard to deal with. And with Justman, yes, he's the captain, but he's still got 2 kills in the fountain. It's super hard for him to deal with anything. We have Hell's Devils rotating towards the lane now, but so is On the Doom. This combo is just disgusting on paper, and it's already working out for them thus far.
It's really hard to play a team fight around a Baptiste and a Grace with the amount of CC they have. Agony.
Oh, hang on a second there. Another kill does go over to On the Doom. Agony just caught out time and time again, it seems.
Yeah, it's tough though. I mean, he's got to try and compete for his farm. But, you know, if you get caught out, it's going to be a rough situation. I was beginning to mention this before that fight broke out. Grace has the Holy Nova, and Baptiste has the Ordained, and both of those are great at really messing up your ability to run away.
Oh, Hell's Devils caught up in another Ordained. A bad Mojo's going to follow that fell.
Oh!
He's going to pop the skedaddle, and he's going to find the last shot. Another point on the board for Mouse. We have 5-1, 5 minutes into the game here, AJ, and Mouse have just been so dominating. And what can you really expect from them? They're at the top of the leaderboard right now, looking absolutely on fire. Agony in a lot of trouble. Here's another Holy Nova mixed with an Ordained, a fearsome shade to follow it through. Antfell picks up his second kill of the game. All 2-2-2 now. My goodness, this is looking quite dire for Rising Lotus, and we're already 5 minutes in.
Maybe you pick up first item Aegis and second item Reflex Block just so you got 2. And
yeah.
Honestly, right, like there's so much crowd control on the side of Mousesports. If one person gets chained on, it's hard for them to do anything, although Baptiste.
Uh-oh, Baptiste is going to use that Ordained. He isn't going to be able to find one. Hell's Devils does get caught up on it. I'm the Doom just managed to escape with his life, but Antfell overstepping just a tiny bit. Does get punished quite heavily. And is still getting another kill on the board for Rising Lotus is extremely important to them, but they need to make something else work here. Getting a little damage down to that turret wouldn't be such a bad thing either, but they're going to have to rotate, maybe go for that gold miner, or at least a little bit of vision here in the Mousesports jungle.
That was actually a very big misplay from Mouse, although Agony is looking to even things up on the misplay count, going quite deep here. Justman might be able to catch up.
Might just be able to. He's chasing him up here. Agony is fairly low, but he is level 6, so has got that Rose offensive when it does come on cooldown. He's going to be nice and safe for the moment, but with that power spike hitting for Antfell as well. He's got a lot of components in his inventory. There comes the Ordained once more. Does stun up the Vox. He's going to be able to get away rather handily, but Antfell still returning a lot of that damage. Same with either Doom. The amount of pressure in the lane now for Mouse is just hell on earth for Rising Lotus to deal with.
It really is. As I was mentioning before, though, you've got to be careful about overextending, although Hell's Devil needs to take that those words of wisdom as well. I think that the thing that you got to realize is as soon as a fight starts to go badly for Mousesports, if Mercedes is not on the back foot already, you're going to get chased down and taken out because Vox can just keep on going very easily with Sonic Zoom. He's got a lot of damage over the course of a fight with the ramp up. And the ability to just, keep pressure on with the Poison Shiv. So, Mousesports, they need to fight around their cooldowns appropriately. And in that fight, they didn't. Ordained and Holy Nova both have relatively long cooldowns. Sure, Baptiste can spam other things, but... Oh.
No, Hell's Devil's taking a lot of bad mojos. He does step away from that fight. The Ace's High actually was sent out from Antfell, but it did go a little bit wide. Mercedes was able to sidestep it quite handily on this Vox. But the burst damage is really there. I mean, Gwen, 100% burst damage, and then I'm the Doom is worth. He lands an Ordained into a bad mojo, followed by Holy Nova. Just anything, all of the above and more, is very hard for anybody from Rising Lotus to get away from it. Even Hell's Devils is obviously building more tanky in this situation. Has got his Founders finished, so it's going to be a little something. Ooh. Basilius getting that Vanguard, but still, Hell's Devils taking a fair bit of trading damage on the back of that one.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we've got to note here, though, is that, you're making a big point about it being 5 kills around 5 minutes. Well, now it's 6 by 9. Things have slowed down a lot for Mousesports, and that's actually a very bad sign for them. They've certainly got plenty of ability to do things later into the game, but they've got to be careful. Here comes the fight.
Well, they do find one already. Hell's Devils ends up biting the dust. That turret is also going to bite the floor. Mouse now looking to take control of Rising Lotus's jungle. They're going to do so quite handily. Agony has just not had a way into this game.
Yeah, that was the play Mousesports needed to avoid where I was going with that point that I was making previously, right? Basically, if it gets too late, Agony and Vox are going to be very strong. Agony's got to get out of there.
Immense gold
Oh, man. Oh, man. Following that auto attack along, and Apfel, you know, gives him a little love tap and just makes sure he knows his place. And now I'm the Doom, just clearing up some of their fronts as well. Yeah, like I said, not had a way into this game whatsoever, but this Crystal Blackfeather will start punishing mispositioning Mousesports later on. We'll just have to see if they can get to that later on.
Absolutely. I mean, Crystal Blackfeather, if you're too far towards that team, he's going to chunk you down with an on-point, and you're going to be slowed. That means if Rising Lotus wants to engage, they can do so much more easily. I think it is big, again, though, to realize that Mousesports are in a position where they need to be continuing to apply pressure, because Gwen, for example, although, you know, decent as any weapon carry is in the late game, is not quite, you know, a Vox, and Agony does something a little similar to Baptiste, a little less team-oriented. You know, there's less crowd control on the Blackfeather's kit, but he has more selfish power. Here we
There
go with
comes
fight.
the Gauntlet. That's a two-man stun on Mouse. I'm the Doom trapped in there with 3 members of Rising Lotus. On point, doing a fair bit of damage to Atfo. He's going to use that buckshot to slow everybody down. Just Man's going to get chased. He's going to try and distract a little bit. Nice knock up. Hell's Devils did plot the reflex block, however. Agony still trying to chase him. Fountain comes out for the heal. Nice aces high over the wall is going to stun him up, but that's still going to be another kill. Agony following that one up pretty solid. Hell's Devils really making the plays, though.
Yeah, here's the thing. I mean, when Baptiste does not have Fearsome Shade, it's really difficult, actually, for a disengage to come through effectively by Mousesports, right? Like, Grace has Holy Nova, that might work. Apfel can sort of, again, we're talking about selfish power, you know, power that's just on the one hero. Skedaddle is great for disengaging yourself from a fight. But Baptiste, without Fearsome Shade, is really going to be in a dicey position without, you know, Holy Nova backing him up. That is not... He's a squishy hero, right? Like, he's built Clockwork Shatterglass. If he gets stunned, it's pretty much all over. If he gets a Poison Shiv effect on him, his sustain, which is, you know, intrinsic and very important to the Baptiste kit, is not going to be very effective either. This is what I meant. You know, you need to be the ones making the plays. If you're on the back foot, things don't go well for you if you're Mousesports.
Exactly what they're doing. Ordain is going to stun up Hell's Devils. Isn't going to use that fountain quick enough. He ends up going down. That will be 8-4 now. We are 12 minutes into that game, and with that turret being down, Rising Lotus are trying to get back into it, but Agony, that was very close, uses that Rose Offensive to get away. Got a mobility on the side of Rising Lotus, and that's going to have to be their grace, if you will, to come back into this game. Oh,
So much damage.
that is stupid amounts of damage. Does block the B ability there from I'm the Doom, but back off nice and safely. Every time they step up, they get chunked for half HP. It's absolutely disgusting. But Mouse having firm control now of Rising Lotus and just dictating the pace of the game, which is exactly what you alluded to, exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, it's what they need to be doing, and also they pressured at a good time there. Hell's Devil had burned Fountain trying to keep himself alive. It didn't work out. Now the Gold Miner, though, could be a target.
Aces high does land onto Merciless. He just falls instantly. Gold Miner goes over to Mouse as well. Agony is going to receive that Vanguard from Hell's Devils, who also has to make an exit out of the fight. Time Mouse step up. They at least blow one cooldown of a pair of boots, if anything else. I mean, that's going to be something big as well to kind of keep your eye on. If the Hell's Devils, every time he wants to go for an engagement, has to pop the boots to get away if his team can't follow up. And Mouse, they secure a Gold Miner. They're at 4,000 gold lead as well. Right, Bert's trying to defend this turret. Ordain is going to come out, is going to stun Hell's Devils.
They can chase here
Very
potentially.
low.
They have Gauntlet. Merciless is here as well.
Yeah, you aren't wrong, but that's going to get blocked up straight away. Crucible popped from Just Man, and I'm the Doom's going to escape and jauntily walk.
They needed to fire the trigger a little quicker there. Agony actually gave up some of his forward positioning, thinking that they were not going to go for the engage. So you can see Rising Lotus maybe not communicating as effectively as they need to be decisive in some of these fights. Now, we've got a 90-second Gauntlet cooldown. Kraken's up pretty soon. You know, this is an opportunity for Mouse to really cement their stranglehold on the map. I'd like to see some good vision coming out from Just Man. He does have some flares, no real scout traps just yet. Without Gauntlet, by the way, really hard for Rising Lotus to fight. We might see a situation where they have to if they're not careful, though. Moving up this far on the map without vision and Mousesports being so far ahead is a very dangerous proposition, but they do manage to get to the jungle shop. That gives them the vision they were looking for.
Themselves as and Mouse just now pressuring Rising Lotus, just constantly shoving this wave in is quite important. And like you mentioned, and like you alluded to, Mouse Devil, he's got this gauntlet, and that's their main engage tool. Otherwise, Mouse can just disengage fairly easily. I mean, yes, Agony can chase up, but the problem is Mouse have so much burst damage, it's easy to target. That Crucible is going to be up 99% of the time for Justman for that Crucible usage. So Hell's Devil really has to just make sure he isolates one target, or they blow that Crucible up for them to even have a realistic fight. And the problem is, I'm the Doom and Apfel, they both have their own reflex blocks as well. So that massive engage tool that Hell's Devil does have is going to be thwarted 99% time. Justman trying to go in here. Holy Never doesn't land. Ordain does, though. Here comes the massive stun, and the Gauntlet is going to get blocked once more. Double disengage here. Mouse and Rising Lotus don't really want anything more to do with each other. Fair bit of damage in that trade, so wanted to back off rather sharp.
That was really a nice play by Mousesports. They burned a lot of engagement tools from the side of Rising Lotus, and the only real disengage tool or big team fight ult that they used is Fearsome Shade, which at this point, you know, through having a clockwork, is not a particularly long cooldown. It's also, you know, 2 levels into it. That reduces the cooldown a decent amount. Hell's Devil, why are you running that way?
I don't know, man. He's just gonna dip straight on back. Merciless. Chase Apfel out as well. I'm the Doom and Justman were there to nice passage of safety. Now Mousesports still piling on this pressure. 5 seconds, you can see that little ping coming out from Hell's Devil. That gauntlet is available in 50 seconds exactly. Kraken's on the board though. They force the fight now for Mouse. I mean, if they at least take 1 or 2 members off the board for Rising Lotus, it's going to be very hard for them to go for this steal.
It is, and you know, Rising Lotus, they want to pressure Mouse a little bit here. To try and buy some more space, but they're not really finding opportunities to do so. They need for, you know, this game to go longer. Mousesports, they're, I'm kind of intrigued by the way they're playing it. They have missed their window of maximum efficacy, I would say. Like, earlier in the game is when the Grace and the Batiste do the most burst damage and can just exit someone out of a fight quite quickly. But at the same time, they are still 5,000 gold ahead. They do still have the edge. I feel like they could be pressuring Rising Lotus more, but they're being a little bit too cautious, and that could bite them in the butt, as they've just, you know, they've given Hell's Devil plenty of time to get that cooldown back, for example. They're giving plenty of time for more farm to get Mercillies and more items. Rising Lotus have avenues back into the game the longer this goes.
Mercillies is only going to get stronger as well on this VOD. I want to look for a little engage here. It doesn't look like they found Agony, Vanguard from Hell's Devil. Mouse, they're still fighting back. That Kraken has been started. Apfel gave it a quick love tap. Not sure he quite meant to do that. And pick up infusions. In fact, infusions across the board. The only one who hasn't got it is Hell's Devil. And now Mouse, again, take priority control over this lane. And let's look at Mr. Elise here. What can he really do in these team fights? Because we got Apfel and I'm the Doom. The amount of burst damage they do have, it's very hard for him to kind of step up and do that consistent damage that Vox is kind of known for and needs well in these fights. They really have to just vote for this long exchange, but Mouse, again, looking for this massive fight. There comes the Gauntlet. Nice knock up as well from Justman. He's trapped inside it, but he doesn't really seem to matter whatsoever. Mercillies on the sideline does go fairly low. That Crucible is going to get popped.
Oh,
get onto 3 people, though. Mercillies still alive till the very end, ends up going down. Hell's Devils will fall as well. Agony using that Rose offensive to get away, but I'm the Doom chasing him. Will he find the bad mojo? He finds the Ordain. Agony just gets out alive. Apfel just sprinting after him. Hell's Devil with a beautiful engage, but Mouse once again just taking them off the board.
That was kind of a heartbreaking fight for Rising Lotus. I think they probably would have been able to take it had Mercillies not gotten stunned on the sidelines. He popped his reflex block, but it wasn't quite at the right time. So not only did he get stunned, he used that. Then when the fear came out from Batiste, he did not have reflex block. Agony, he's looking for a Kraken steal. I don't see this one happening.
Apfel's going to chase him off. Buckshot for the reveal. Oh, Aces High actually does land. Kraken is going to go over to Mouse. Agony can't quite find the on point. Appo's going to chase him down, though. Vanguard to make sure he stays just out of combat for the moment. That Kraken, though, coming up for Mouse. Looking at a very, very clean game for them right now. There's not really much they've done wrong. They've given up 4 kills, yes, but not many mispositions? No, they haven't mispositioned a lot, AJ. In these team fights. It's just been more Agony capitalizing on the fact that Mouse don't really have this massive frontline tank without Just Man locking him up.
Yeah, positioning has honestly not been too much of a problem for either team, with the exception of Mercilli's getting burst by the gold mine earlier. The bigger problem is, you know, making sure you have your reflex blocks for the right abilities. Fearsome Shade is a massive one that you need to be dealing with. Here comes Engage, though.
Right, you can go for something underneath the turret, but we're going to let that Kraken finish it off first. Nice gauntlet. That Crucible being blown a little bit early. Triple silence as well. Aces High is going to hit Hell's Devil. Fountain's going to heal him up. And now Agony and Mercilli's trying to deal with that Kraken as they chase down the captain of Rising Lotus. That Kraken on about half HP. Just Man wants to look for a little something here. Holy Nova onto 1. There goes a bad mojo as well to send Agony packing. Kraken still knocking on the base doors. This could be game over. This could be game 1 going over to Mouse. But they just don't want to give up just yet. Rising Lotus find themselves on a 2-man Holy Nova. And now they only need 1 more kill to just finally finish off that Kraken. They end up fighting him. They end up getting the ace. That Kraken isn't quite ready to end the game. And Rising Lotus, they're still in this, but by a hair.
You know, one thing we haven't had the opportunity to talk about, because so much of this game has been team fighting, is the itemization choices on the side of Mousesports. I really like the fact that we're seeing basically 2 defensive items out of every single member. The reason being that if you are a team that does not scale quite as effectively as your opponents, when you hit that awkward phase of the game where Rising Lotus have less gold than you, but kind of deal the same damage just because they spend their money better, it can be really nice to say, all right, we're going to buy more defense. As a result, we'll still deal more damage than you because you were behind up until this point. You've had to only buy offense, right? That means that we're dealing roughly the same damage. If we keep outplaying you, we're going to win a lot of these fights. And that has been happening with Mousesports in a lot of these. But now with that Kraken falling, yes, there's things like backdoor attempts available, but that was a sort of big gold swing. Now Rising Lotus have a lot more money to work with than they did before. And as I said, they spend it better. This defensive itemization strategy from Mouse only gets them so far. At some point, they're still just going to get out damaged because Rising Lotus, you know, they're starting to pick up their defensive items, like Mercilli's going for an Aegis now, and also a Metal Jacket.
No, I think you're absolutely correct. I mean, if they don't manage to stack up this defense, are just going to get out DPS because Mercilli's not quite at that point where he can just deal with them. I think in a 1v1, he is more that sustained damage, right? And they've got to live through that initial burst. Mav's now looking for maybe a way in. That Kraken has respawned. Agony packing quite a bit of a punch as well. Is going for almost triple defensive items, it does seem. Bane is going to land. It's going to stun on Agony. Look at that burst damage. Fearsome Shade is going to come out. He is going to survive it. There comes the Crucible. The Gauntlet's going to get laid down as well. Only 1 stun up. Now Apple is chasing Mercilli's. He's out the fight. He's on the sidelines. Hell's Devil falls. And Rising Lotus, they are on their last limb here. Just Man is going to chase Mercilli's down by this Crystal Sentry. He isn't going to help you, buddy. There's going to be a kill in the base as well. And I'm the Doom just looking for the finish, ignoring the minions. Bad mojoing the Crystal. And that will be game number 1 going over to Mousesports.
Yeah, the point about defense is somewhat muddied when you see a Grace in the game, because her burst heals just ruin your opportunity to come back into a fight if you're not in the right spot. I'm the Doom, gonna finish up the Vein Crystal. Rising Lotus, I think they had moments in that game for sure, but Mousesports looked very convincing here, Jaws. Very strong play from them.
I mean, who'd have thought it, really? Who'd have thought that Grace is actually really good? An 80% win rate, it just keeps on climbing. Now it's on Rising Lotus to go back to the draft phase and say, hey, is that a problem? Do we need to ban away the Grace here? Or what kind of needs to change for us? Because they didn't look so weak that you thought, you know, they're just going to get run over. But Mousesports do take the first win. We'll see what they can do in game number 2. Over to our analyst Jess, though, to break that down a little bit more.
We have it. Well, that was an interesting interesting match there coming on as we saw a Grace and a Batiste on Mouse winning a game. Who would have thought that would happen?
It's almost like it's a really strong duo. But I mean, we said this was going to be a skill match. We said it was going to come down to which team outplayed their opponents because they had very similar compositions, and far more often than not, it was Mousesports. Like Cash said, there were chances for Rising Lotus, but early on, Mousesports just using this Batiste-Grace combo to such great effect.
Yeah, they definitely got the early game. I mean, they got 5 kills at the 5:25-minute mark, and at 5:50, another kill in the jungle and Backfeather, and that made it 6-1. And this Ordain with Fearsome Shade combo, along with the Holy Nova coming from Grace, was just a little too much in an early game that we called out during the draft. However, you know, Rising Lotus did get a nice turnaround fight there at the 10:30 mark. Nice gauntlet, turned it around, got 2 kills. Fortunately, didn't get an ace. However, from there, it kind of fell down because Hell's Devil at that point had 2 tier 3 items, while Justman had 4. I mean, he had 4 tier 3 items, so from a support and captain perspective, he was very behind the enemy team. And Hell's Devil got caught out a lot. I mean, he had some good gauntlet engages and stuff, but a lot of the fights, he just overextended as Arden and was kind of free poke from Atfil and from Batiste, and he got way too low and got actually killed like 3 times in a lot of the beginning of the fights.
Yeah, and we saw later on in the game quite a lot of people getting caught out, but the late game definitely was a lot revolving around the Kraken, right? That was obviously that was a huge objective. It always is in Vainglory, but this game specifically, there seemed to be huge focus on it for the teams.
Well, yeah, it was really just they needed that little bit of extra to be able to push in, and so a lot of focus there. But again, even in these late game team fights, you're able to see that Mousesports just outmaneuvering Rising Lotus.
So what is it that happened in these late game fights? Because, you know, when we were talking about the drafts, we were talking about how Rising Lotus needed to get to the late game. That's where their strength really lied within their composition.
Yeah, there was one fight where we just saw in the replay here, Hell's Devil needs to block the fear. I mean, it's like a 1.4 seconds. He didn't max the fear, which is 1.6 second fear duration, but 1.4 is still a long stun duration. And when you're feared, you can't do anything. You're just going to get poked, and Afro is just going to blow you up. And that's exactly what happened in that fight. So he needs to block the fear. That's something that is blockable if you train mechanically on how to block it. He makes a noise. Once you hear the noise, just press the reflex block and you can block it. So Hell's Devil has to basically disrupt the win condition of Mousesports for Rising Lotus to stand a chance here.
So once again, we kind of go back to that conversation of Hell's Devil actually being a huge pivot point for this team. We need him to step up going on into the second game. Are we comfortable with the Arden pick for this guy? Do we feel like that was a solid pick? Obviously, his KDA for that game wasn't fantastic, but like I don't want to bully him too much there. Obviously, that was a loss, right? Your KDAs are not going to be great in a loss. But he definitely felt a little lackluster from the side. But the whole of the Rising Lotus squad felt a little bit lackluster in that game, in my opinion. What is it that they need to change coming forward into this next game? Is it going to be a lot about the draft specifically? Or like, is it just a matter of positioning, a matter of getting caught out too much?
I think it's a little bit of the positioning, a little bit of getting caught out too much, but I want to see them go into this next draft and try and come up with a draft that will counter what Mousesports is trying to do instead of trying to match what Mousesports is going to do. Because we just saw in that game, like, they are not going to be able to go toe-to-toe. Not many teams are going to be able to go toe-to-toe with this Mousesports lineup. So you have to try and beat them compositionally and play something that is not the exact same style as what Mousesports is looking to do.
Yeah, and I caught out on the draft. I mean, I don't know why they picked Arden when Lyra's up. You need a healer to counter a healer, and Blackfeather Lyra is extremely strong. You need a composition that can stand against Batiste. He is a hero that makes you fight your ground, and you have Lyra with a Blackfeather late game that beats Batiste easily, because when Batiste is poking, Lyra can just heal up your team, and Blackfeather can just keep poking enemy team to get them low, and you have a Lyra healer. So they need to pick the other healer. Like, Arden is great and all, but against a Grace, he's not going to do as well, because you saw the Grace heal late game. I mean, just couldn't burst down somebody because that holy shield and that burst heal, boom, just kept Apple alive.
Alright, well, Batiste is immediately taken off the board by Rising Lotus this time around. They just don't want to have to deal with that once again. Now, Mousesports are going to ban away Baron. Grace is available right now, as is Grumpjaw. Where do you go if you're Rising Lotus?
I feel like you should probably go towards the Grace. Her ability to just save allies is so important. You know, it gives you a little bit extra leeway if you do get caught out as well. So I'm glad that they did go for the Grace pickup here. But now on the side of Mousesports, obviously they still have plenty of captains that they play. We've seen Just Man play Arden, Finn, and Lyra. So they're going to get their Vox though.
Yeah, Vox going into the hands of Apfel. We've seen how dominant he can be. And once again, Samuel is going to be denied from Agony. That's easily his best hero.
Yeah, that's a really smart draft there. And I think Rising Lotus will probably ban Kestrel here, which will open Grumpjaw for I'm the Doomed. So this is a very interesting guy because Lyra and Grumpjaw will be open. So are they going to take away Kestrel or are they going to go with Lyra and Grumpjaw? And Apfel's on Vox, which is really scary. And Vox is good into Grace because when she tries to land a Holy Nova, it's pretty much telegraphed. He can just Sonic Zoom away. So they're going to go ahead and ban away the Kestrel. I think here, Mousesports does not need to pick the Lyra here. They can go ahead and secure a key jungler for I'm the Doom, whether it be Grumpjaw. I don't think they should give Grumpjaw up over. They're going to actually take the Finn because they're going to anticipate a Grumpjaw pick, I feel. Because now Rising Lotus can take like Grumpjaw Adagio, which we saw was very strong when TSM ran it. So let's see if Rising Lotus can play that composition or they're going to go with more comfort picks here.
Yeah, and we talked about last week how Finn is a pick that actually does very well into Grumpjaw because he can just block everything Grumpjaw wants to do. Like the ultimate, for example, Finn is just a big brick wall in the way of that.
Yeah, it's difficult positioning because Finn is so slow, but if you can get yourself there, it works wonders. Idris, again, talked about this last game. Idris is so strong with a Grace because you can go diving in deep, just keep fighting. You don't have to worry about retreating because you're going to get that burst heal coming out as long as you aren't getting too aggressive. You know, you do have to still make sure that you're staying with your team a bit, but the Idris just scales up so well.
Yeah, Idris gets absolutely terrifying towards the late stages of the game. Rising Lotus, actually, with the Grace and Idris, they're looking like they have a powerful composition so far, but still one pick to go.
Yeah, I mean, Idris is good, but it's still melee into Finn, and Finn's going to be able to CC him and pull him away from the Vox. So if you're the last pick here, they probably go with a CP Blackfeather, something that range. You need to play range against Finn. If they pick a melee hero, it'll be tough. So yep, they're going to go with the Scarf here. Instead of the Blackfeather, but it's still range into Finn, which I like. However, because Scarf is open, we have Grumpjaw available, we have Taka, we have CP Glaive, which actually has not been played a lot, but is still decent given the composition that they have here. So Mousesports has a lot of options that they go with, but I feel like for them, they may probably opt with for CP Blackfeather here potentially.
60% win rate for Scarf, actually, which is, you know, significantly higher than you would expect. You don't look at Scarf and think, oh, this is super powerful. Has only been played in 5 games, though.
Oh, and a lot of that is, you know, I was going to mention, you know, only the 5 games, but the 60% win rate is because teams are only picking him when they're really confident in that pick for the most part.
Yeah.
I do like Scarf into Finn because it is a very easy target for you to be hitting Spitfires onto, build up those breaking point stacks, and then unleash a Dragon's Breath and absolutely melt through your opponent's team. As far as Mousesports is concerned, though, like Sweetie was mentioning, there's a lot of different options for them here. You got to figure it's going to be a Crystal jungler, and that's not going to be a typical pick.
Yeah, so we have 2 carries, question mark?
Yeah,
Sweetie, explain this.
I guess they're going to go with a Crystal Ringo potentially here. I think that makes sense. But he's really squishy. Idris is going to completely blow up this Ringo along with Scarf and Grace's CC when Scarf gets Frostburn. So 2 squishies into Idris is extremely risky, and I don't like the draft that Mousesports came up with here. I don't know why they're going to try this Ringo. He has a really slow jungle clear, so they're going to be behind in jungle clear. So it's going to slow down the rotation. So Rising Lotus are going to be able to put a lot of pressure with Grace and Scarf here for sure.
And I mean, we have to talk about the Grace, right? Because it feels like every game that Grace is on a team, they get first blood. It feels like Grace just gives you so much early power. Are they going to be able to survive this jungle with a Ringo there?
That's a big question because Ringo Vox is not a very strong, whichever one of those 2 ends up in the jungle, neither of them are very strong in a level 1 jungle fight. There's also the fact that assuming this is going to be a Crystal Ringo, Grace can just heal up as soon as that Hellfire Brew comes out. I mean, you can even potentially throw down the Divine Intervention just before it connects, reduce the damage of the Hellfire Brew by 40%, and then just immediately heal it. Like, that's going to be very, very strong. There is the possibility, though, of it being a Crystal Vox.
Crystal Vox, yeah.
We'll have to see. I do have to throw it on into the game, guys. So we'll see which one is going to build Crystal as we get onto this one. Don't forget to get involved. Hashtag Vainglory8 is how you can let us know who you are supporting. Can Rising Lotus make it back into this series, or will Mouse take a 2-0? It's time to hand over to our casters to find out.
Thank you very much, guys. And you know what? It's Rising Lotus's time. Show that they can win on the Grace as well. Mousesports versus Rising Lotus. They've swapped sides, but this is game number 2. Mouse up 1-0 right now. And has the time come, AJ? Are we actually going to see a Crystal Ringo? Please.
The battle for the Halcyon
I don't know, they're
Fold
both
has
building
begun.
weapon blades at this point, Jess, so I can't say for certain. This is pretty interesting. I actually kind of like it. I like that I'm the Dooms in the jungle on the Ringo. This is something we saw back in winter of 2016, I believe. So the first season of 2016, we saw Jungle Ringo do some serious work in Velocity versus Team Solo Mid. It's one of my most memorable games, without question. Really interesting watching it early on, although getting rooted here could be bad news if Hell's Devil goes in!
Oh, I got it!
No.
Oh, no, punishment. Oh, I'm the Doom. Just Man's going to be here to save you, but he has a level 1 Finn, so he hasn't got too much. Oh, the total BM. Doom, do not let these go over as well. Don't do it.
Man.
Oh, no. Hell's Devils gets another one. Oh, my goodness. I'm the Doom. Not having the strongest of starts on this Ringo. Is he going to be able to get this last camp, AJ? He got it. He got one. It's all good. Mousesports, you know, they may have fallen behind 2 whole camps almost. Don't get trapped up again. Oh, Just Man's in a lot of trouble. Agony. Just gonna chase him down, and now I'm the Doom is on the menu as well. We talked about First Bloods, and they always seem to go the way of the Grace. There's 2 kills for Rising Lotus.
I kind of love how completely, in every way, that was bad for Mousesports, right? Like, not only did they die, but they also lost camps, and they also... It was kind of past the point where you lost your second camp and Grace was still there. You have to know Scarf's coming. Like, Scarf has quite a reasonable first clear with the burn damage on his perk. And then, when he gets there and is level 2 and you're both level 1, what are you gonna do? Like, there's no way you fight that. It was really, I mean, it was smart play from Rising Lotus, but it was also a bit greedy of Mouse not to react more appropriately to it. I feel like bringing Apfel down, yes, he loses farm, but your jungle doesn't get crushed so completely, right? Would have been a good option. Alternatively, just kind of giving up would have worked for Mouse as well. Giving over 2 kills on top of all the deficit you already just got from your jungle being invaded is not a good spot to be in. There's a 1,000 gold lead. It's 2.5 minutes in. That's absolutely obscene, Gus.
Oh, it's looking really scary for Mouse, but you know what? They're the top of the table for a reason at the moment, and that reason is the comebacks as well as the early lead they can acquire. We'll see how Agony does, though. He's got this 1 kill on the Scarf, and we all know if Scarf gets rolling, it could be an absolute menace to deal with, and I'm kind of looking at the big engage tools now that Mouse have. And in game number 1, they had Batiste, and they also had, funnily enough, the Grace, a perfect combo. A match made in heaven, but now the only massive engage tool they do have in terms of getting on the backline is going to be Just Man with the Forced Accord, and you know how that's going to end? If he drags a Grace, your team's getting knocked up.
See, the thing is, I don't think Mouse really want to be engaging in the traditional way. I feel like they really want to have Rising Lotus try and set up a fight, and they kind of, you know, kite a little bit and counter-engage some. Finn is one of the best captains for keeping your carries alive. They've got 2 carries here, so one of them at the very least might be too difficult to take down. We'll see what happens. Constant invades here coming in from Rising Lotus. They're doing a great job of putting the pressure on.
Yeah, Aggie stole that camp as well. I'm the Doom is mad. He's trying to go for something. Apfel's going to join him. Devil is going to, well, Merciless actually on the sideline. Whoa, that's a lot of damage. Hang on a second here. Apfel gets that fortified health from Just Man, but Hell's Devil is going to be able to back off, and Agony stealing the jungle away once more is going to be able to take that front healing camp. Now Fountain has been finished as well. Look for a fight, I think.
This is a really rough spot for Mousesports. One of the things that can be strong and effective about this comp is that Ringo has, you know, an early game spike. But actually, hold up, Jaws, he's starting to build some crystal power. So, okay, you do see Ringos do this sometimes. They start weapon for an earlier clear, because with Torling Silver, they really scale very well with it. But then later on, they start to build their crystal power. I'm the Doom seems to be doing that. This changes the dynamic of the comp from what we were talking about before. It makes it much more about, you know, I'm going to Hellfire Brew someone, then we're going to either kill that person really quickly or use the fact that he's been forced to run away to fight other people. It can be quite strong as a counter-engage tool as well. As soon as you know that Rising Lotus want to go in, you dissuade them from doing that with a Hellfire Brew. Yeah, a bit different than we anticipated here from Mouse, but arguably stronger, I think, than having double weapons. So we'll see if they can make it work.
Itemization is going to be quite important for I'm the Doom right now. I want to see if he's going to go straight Shadow Glass or something. Even maybe go into an Echo. I've seen a Grace go in Echo before, so you can just double ult. It's very, very terrifying when you have those. And being pushed underneath this turret as well. That Chakra chunking him out a fair bit, and now Agony just spitfiring over the wall, just trying to get in pot shots to try and chunk someone down. And I'm the Doom taking a large majority of that damage. We'll end up backing off here. Rising Lotus's siege as well is extremely annoying. Their poke potential is huge, and Mouse are paying for it right now.
Oh, I'm the Doom.
They're going to chase him.
That too.
They might just get the kill. Oh, he's going to burn away. 45 HP is going to save him. Just Man comes in with a polite company.
The Sentry's actually doing a lot of work here. Maybe Apple can chase someone down. Gotta be careful of Mercillius, though.
So is going to dash away from him, but now once more, Rising Lotus pounding on this pressure. They can take away that front healing count. Outfell, you're not going to get your head in, buddy. There's 3 members of Rising Lotus there. They're going to get control over this item shop, and more importantly as well, that gold miner. Gold, in fact, is actually ahead for Rising Lotus now. Not been able to stretch it too far, but still 1,500. More than they could hope for.
So we should talk about Mouse's avenue back into the game. Apfel, if he gets some kills early on by fighting like this, could be one avenue. But realistically, it's about hitting a few power spikes, right? They really need Apfel to have 2 items, and they need I'm the Doom to have at least Shatterglass, or if he goes a different build, 2 items, right? Those are the options. Because if he goes Shatterglass, he's just a Hellfire Brew, and that's fine. But if he gets 2 items, and one of them is like an alternating current, and one of them is, I don't know, any other damaging crystal item, then he's fine, right? That works. But Shatterglass is a viable alternative. It depends on what Apfel does here, and he's at 2,000 gold. So Apfel can pick something up next time he goes to shop. I like that Rising Lotus, they probably looked at his inventory and he said, you know, he hasn't got something yet. Let's force the wave in, let's force him to farm for a while, and then because he doesn't have an item and he can't fight us, let's take his jungle.
That's what they've been doing all game. I don't think it's a matter of question, more we're just gonna do it. Just gonna take your jungle, there's nothing you can do about it. But that time to come online, like you mentioned, for I'm the Doom, a little while yet. Yes, he's picked up his Shatterglass here, so this next Hellfire Brew will deal a significant amount of damage, but what you alluded to earlier, and rightfully so, is Hell's Devil is just going to be able to heal that up without too much of a problem.
Yeah, it is a very nice counter, which is why it's kind of interesting that we saw the Ringo last pick. But at the same time, if you force Grace to pop ult basically straight away in a fight, that can mean that Apfel has a little bit more of a target agnostic view on things, because he can then be like, all right, well, I don't have to worry about spending too long on a target and that person, you know, just getting healed up, so I can kind of do what I want, what I need to do in this fight, rather than playing around the Grace ultimate. We'll see if it pans out that way, though, because that might be a little bit optimistic on the behalf of Mouse. They are a very strong team, though. You know, they have the ability to turn perhaps a losing situation into a winning one, just by virtue of their skill alone. Just Man forced to court is down now, though. 60+ seconds on that. he's really going to struggle to find windows with Crucible being half that in cooldown.
Echo. Echo for all. Hellfire Brew is going to find Mercillies and block that burn damage. And now Hell's Devil is just going to have to back off as well. He's taking a fair bit basic attack damage from Atfo. He's going to go back in though. A lot of trouble. That massive divine intervention though is going to heal him up. There is the ultimate. There's the Dragon Breath. Just Man caught up in it. And Mercillies going ham in the backline. He's going to be able to execute I'm the Doom. He liquefies into the ground. There's nothing left of him, AJ.
Yeah, Mercillies, you know, that was a very strong dive there, obviously. Oh, turret going down.
Turret's dead. Uh-oh, Atfel's dead too. Oh, can he pick up a kill though? Hell's Devil, is he going to go down? No, of course he's not. There we go. Mercillies comes up with another kill. Agony almost fell in that engagement as well. Can you imagine if he picked up 2? That would have been godlike. But no, Atfel falls also. 10 minutes in, 5-0. Now that gold lead is extended.
I think perhaps that Apfel took my comment about being target agnostic a little bit too much to heart there. He nearly killed a couple of people at the end of that fight, and he could have just killed one of them had he wanted to, had he had you know, the decision in mind previous to going for the engage. Big problem there, honestly, was that Apfel had too low energy at the beginning of the fight. As a result, you know, when the fight kicked off in earnest, he couldn't turn once he had positioning and everyone was low and really commit to it because he couldn't Sonic Zoom around and reposition easily. Tough spot to be in for Mouse, but there were certainly moments where it looked like, you know, let's say he had more energy, they could have actually turned around and won a fight. Perhaps as we go a little bit further into this game, as Apfel gets some more levels and just has a higher base energy, these fights will be a little bit easier for him to scope out and get the good resources on.
Well, he has hit a nice little spike there. He's got the Sorrow Blade, he's got that Poison Shiv, and now I'm the Doom. Heading towards what could possibly be the double Shatter Glass. We'll have to wait and see if that does come about. Well, taking a fair bit of damage from those chakrams now. Agony. Oh man, they're almost one-shotting I'm the Doom. My goodness. I'm the Doom just can't get a look in these fights whatsoever. Rising Lotus once more. Oh, Agony gets forced to caught it. Weird Ball is going to get blocked. Devil, just quick on his fingers, he's going to be able to tap that. And Sentry is going to chase them out as well. So Rising Lotus still in control. I'm the Doom almost going down there was pretty big. That Crystal Sentry is going to fall. 2 lives remaining now. Rising Lotus, maybe looking towards this item shop. I was going to say Gold Miner, but they did secure it a minute ago, so it's not worth it.
So I think that I'm the Doom, if he goes for the second Shadow Glass, it's actually quite a smart purchase. You're not really expecting to do the work over the course of a longer fight. That's kind of what the Vox is for. If you can burst down Agony or Mercillies, then you might, depending on how quick on the trigger finger Hell's Devil is, be able to follow up and kill that target before Grace Heal comes in, and that's definitely a way you win fights as Mouse.
Try and find another fight again. Just Man is in the front line this time, exactly where he wants to be, but can the rest of his squad just do something in the form of damage? That would help any of the members of Rising Lotus. Nice 2-man quibble, but I'm the Doom takes 1 Spitfire and it's about a third of his HP gone.
He just had too much money in the bank. He needed to shop. Like, I'm the Doom doesn't want to fight when he needs to spend his money. Makes sense. Mercillies is finding so much damage onto Just Man here, though.
Just Man almost goes down. I'm the Doom. Almost saw to follow that. Force Squad's going to get blocked beautifully again. There is the Hellfire Brew. The target is Agony. He actually hits 2 people with Mercillies. Just stands next to him. Oh dear. Just walks into the Spitfire and Hell's Devil does heal him up. Mercillies is going to dash forward, going to try and find the kill on Atfel, but he's going to be able to get away. Just Man's still alive, but can't really do all too much with that Force Accord being down. Agony is having the time of his life on this Scar. Mercillies trying to get a bit more damage down to that turret. Atfel stepping forward once more. Just Man is in the front line. There comes the wait for it. It's not going to find anybody, and now that turret's going to fall. Just Man is to follow. Rising Lotus take their 7th kill of the game, and this very well could be a perfect one.
That was really the opportunity for it to work out here for Mousesports. If I'm the Doom had just walked into a Spitfire, they had done enough damage that Apfel could start applying pressure effectively. And if I'm the Doom was a threat on the backline, then it would have been hard for Mercillies to just be like, all right, well, I'm going to commit so that, you know, we can take the turret based on that pressure. Now with 7 kills to 0, Kraken hasn't even spawned here. Rising Lotus are looking really, really good. They have a huge gold advantage, too, about 6,000 gold in the lead. Very strong position to be in. I do think Mouse, with the right engage, can turn things around, though. This is a team comp with 2 of the abilities in the game that have probably the highest upside potential to just win a fight, right? Like, Hellfire Brew, Forced Accord, sometimes they're just going to win you games. Pretty out of nowhere, too. It really depends on Rising Lotus crucibling effectively. Here comes another one, though.
They want to go for an engage once more. Just Man already at half HP. Appo's going to have to kite back there. Does reflex block. Forced to call this reflex block. Oh! I'm the Doom with the 3-man Hellfire Brew. He's going to get chased out. There comes the Divine Intervention from Hell's Devils on Merciless Art. Fell, steps into another Spitfire, ends up going down. 1v3, not where you want to be. Now I'm the Doom. Here comes the Dragon's Breath. Agony just
Double
melting
kill.
Just Man. He's going to melt I'm the Doom as well. That's going to be an ace for Rising Lotus, and they're going to push for this base.
Honestly, again, that was a fight that could have been won, I feel, for Mousesports. The Crucible did not actually block the burn damage of the Hellfire Brew, so everyone is ticking for a lot. The problem is that they did not coordinate very effectively. Like, their communication wasn't good. Just Man didn't decide to help Apfel. Yes, it is a lot slower for a Finn to get into a fight than a Vox, but he still could have started to make his way in. I'm the Doom was buying a lot of time on the other side. Just Man needed to pick a direction. Help I'm the Doom or back up Apfel. If Apfel was going to go in, it definitely needed to be that one, but he kind of did neither. He just sat on the other side of the wall. So rough team fight for Mousesports, but again, showing they've got the capacity to win these, I think, and now with Apfel having a breaking point, they are in an even better position if they want to try and find a win.
Over down onto one. Doom is off to the side. Hellfire Brew's going to get blocked again, and Apfel just can't get the damage in. Nice forced accord from Just Man, but he is all alone. Quibble
Double
onto
kill.
one. He's going to face going back to the base. Now, I'm the Doom is on the retreat. The only member left alive for Mouse, and again, could be very well a perfect game. 60 in, and they are 10k in the lead, and 17 minutes in game number 1. Mouse are in the lead by 5k, so Rising Lotus really making sure they outdo Mousesports in every way, in every sense of the word. Kraken's going to get unleashed, and that is going to march down the lane shortly.
Things might be out of reach at this point. I think Mouse probably had one more fight in them, and that may well have been the fight. They are picking up some infusions even on Just Man here, though. This is a true last stand. If they find that big ultimate, maybe things work out. They got to be careful, though. Any mispositioning from the carries, as you can see from that last fight, means someone like Apfel going down very quickly.
Yeah, Apfel, Sonic zoomed, well, not even forwards, to the side, just got deleted instantly. You could see Mercilli just had him in his sights and instantly jumped on him, and that was really it. Another Holy Nova. Mercilli's actually on the back line now. I'm the Doom is going to unleash that Hellfire Brew. It's going to get blocked. That wait for it. The silence is going to be pretty big there. But Apfel taking so much damage. Dragon Breath is going to take out that turret, and he's going to chase the rest of Mouse out this base. One turret falls, the second one to follow. Now they know you need to focus on this crystal. Kraken's going to help them finish it off, and Rising Lotus will tie this best of 3 up 1-1.
Really strong performance from Rising Lotus. I think especially in the early game, we saw a different team here. But Mousesports, I would also argue we saw a different team from them. Firstly, the draft was pretty controversial. I won't say whether I think it was correct or not. I think there's ways it could have worked, but they certainly did not play to that maybe in the way that they should have. Going into game number 3, I'd like to see Mouse return to something a little bit more standard.
Well, that was a perfect game as well, coming out from Rising Lotus. I want to see what the analysts have to say. And is Grace really too OP? Take it away, guys.
All right, guys. Well, I mean, Jackson, you said you didn't want to kind of go too hammer. I'm kind of
The draft
annoyed
was wrong.
that Mouse
Like,
went
the
with that
draft was
draft.
wrong.
Super late game draft, but also you're against a Grace. You're you guarantee that you lose the early game surely with this draft.
Yeah, wait, but CP Ringo is jungle meta. It's the most effective throw available for sure for this draft.
I mean, at least they've ticked that box, right? The best throw of the season, maybe? Because, Mouse, this is a heavy favorite coming in here. I mean, talk to me a little bit, Bacon, about what went wrong here for Mouse, aside from just CP Ringo.
That last pick is what went wrong. I mean, there's so many other options they could have done here, but you pick one of the heroes that's most focused on a single burst ability in the late game against a hero who's really strong in the early game and is really good at countering burst.
I mean, Hell's Devil, we were talking about this is the guy to watch. This game, he absolutely stepped up, right? He was single-handedly ruining the Doomsday in the early game.
Yeah, Mousesports proved me wrong. I would always say synergy over draft no matter what. But in this situation, with a draft like that, I mean, CP Ringo just has such a slow clear, and Grace is so strong. You saw what happened. Hell's Devil just literally played them for fools in the back, stealing the healer. Then Scarf comes over level 2, takes the mid healer, and gets 2 kills. And then from there, by 16 minutes in the game, they had like a 10k gold lead and 0. They couldn't even get 1 kill off. It was pretty funny.
They did get 1 kill right at the end, but it was after the Vein Crystal popped, so it didn't count for the scoreboard. So they even get denied that, and it does count as a perfect game for Rising Lotus, who they can be very happy with this result, right? That's another game against Mouse, another point on the board for them.
I mean, and at the same time, you know, we're ragging on Mousesports for this draft, but your opposition still has to capitalize on it. Rising Lotus still had to make sure that they played the way that they have to into that CP Ringo, which, again, granted, their composition was very easy to play into a CP Ringo. You saw just Crucible and Reflex blocks for your 2 carries, and all of a sudden, CP Ringo is basically becomes invalid.
Look at this ultimate from I'm the Doom is why CP Ringo's good, right?
Yeah, that's the best ultimate they could have hoped for. But there you go again. The hard counter of Grace just immediately heals it. All of the damage that's done by a CP Ringo from the Hellfire Brew immediately just healed up.
He had Agni on his Scarf. I mean, he blocked that reflex block when he's ulting, but his Scarf, I mean, his skill shot with the Spitfires, he actually played Scarf extremely well. So it's great to see Agni on a different hero that he's able to carry pretty hard on, besides Samuel that we all know him for. So it's really good to see, you know, what other heroes can Agni play here that he can really show off and help carry, you know, Rising Lotus to hopefully another win here.
Agony definitely seems very proficient on specifically CP jungles. That seems to that's definitely his like field of expertise.
Not just CP jungles, but CP mages. Because like the Blackfeather wasn't very impressed with his CP Blackfeather, but like the Samuel, the Scarf. As long as he's on something that's more this mage style of hero, I feel like that's where Agony's bread and butter is.
All right, I want to bring the conversation back around to Grace again, because Grace has got through twice in this series, and Grace has won both of those games. Do we think Grace is something that these teams need to start banning? I asked this question last week. We didn't really see that many Grace bans. We still saw it go through a lot, and we still saw it consistently get this like 80% win rate.
I feel like it really should be on B-side. It should be a B-side ban. Which gives A-side so many opportunities here. Like if you just leave the Baron open with your A-side ban literally anything else, you're forcing your opponents to say, okay, we either have to ban away the Baron or the Grace or let both of them through, give our opponents the choice of their pick of that, and then take the other one. But I feel like Grace has an advantage in that because Grace does really well into Baron, so it feels like this is something that B-side should be banning every game, but try and figure out something else that they can play into a Baron, because you're likely going to be leaving that open.
But then where does Grumpjaw fit into that conversation? Because obviously Grumpjaw made it through the bans in that game and just didn't get picked at all.
Yeah, I was shocked no one picked up Grumpjaw. I mean, that to me is just shocking. And I feel like when a team picks Grace, Lyra's up. Like, pick healer into healer. Like, Lyra is actually good into Grace when you have a composition that can outpoke a Grace composition and kite her, because she wants to dive in, and you need a composition that can kite her really well.
Mousesports banning away Baron. This shows me that Mousesports does not play Baron. Like, the fact that Mousesports is continuously banning Baron, even on A side, I think that's something that teams can look to exploit against them in future drafts. If they don't play this hero, again, on A side, you can just leave it open, and you know that they're going to ban it, and you can get yourself that Grace.
First
but
picking the Baptiste.
Yeah, so Baptiste locked in here, but Baptiste is not something that's like impossible to play against. It's not something that doesn't have counters, right, guys?
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely counters to Baptiste. Hard engage can do very well into Baptiste, so can long-range poke, just outranging him with something like a Kestrel or CB Blackfeather, but also going all in on him with like a Taka or things of that nature.
Yeah, for sure. Range definitely counters him. Taka depends how it's played, but he's actually really good into Taka. Baptiste's first pick here is very interesting, though. Mousesports has always banned Baron first. But first pick of Baptiste, they've never done. They actually will first pick a Vox or an Arden or Lyra first, but never a jungler. So I think Rising Lotus here, if they want Agony on Samuel, they need to take Samuel now. Samuel actually can outplay Baptiste. It's more of a skill matchup, but late game Samuel definitely beats Baptiste because of his range. And once he gets his core items, he's a huge threat. So they're actually going with the Arden here. Again, Lyra is up, and Rising Lotus does not play Lyra. Like, what is up with Hell's Devil's like kit? Does he only play Lance and Arden, I feel like? Or I mean, he's played a good Grace, but like I think Lyra should be one of
Grace, right?
one of the captains that he should be able to play here.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that they lock in that Arden, especially with Samuel up. Samuel has been banned by Mousesports in the second ban, both of the previous games in this series. Lance is going to be taken away here. I mean, what does that Lance ban say to you guys? Does that mean that Rising Lotus are going to go for like a hard engage composition here and they don't want that to get in the way or something?
I'm not crazy about the Lance ban. I guess it does say that they don't want to have that level of lockdown with a Baptiste there already as well. That's just even more lockdown. But it also says to me that Rising Lotus, how much of their homework did they do on the draft? Because again, we have not seen Justman play this Lance very much at all. Even going back until last season, it wasn't a huge pick for him.
It's not something he's known for, yeah.
And I knew they should have taken a Samuel because it's banned against them, of course. And I like taking the Gwen here. Gwen gets Skedaddle out of the Ordained, and they're also denying Apfel the Gwen comp. But Vox is open, so Vox is going to be picked up here by Mousesports, and potentially Lyra here. And that's an extremely strong comp because Lyra, again, a healer with Baptiste, is extremely strong because he's already a sustain hero. He's pretty good in early game. Lyra's good in early game. That's going to give Mousesports a pretty strong composition here on the left side for sure.
There is the Lyra going to be locked on in, and now looking towards their final pick, they've got to pick up something for the lane. Vox is still wide open. Like, it feels like Vox is just a pretty solid way to round out the composition.
Yeah, it's curious to me that Vox has gotten so far through the draft because we talked about before this, and in the previous two games, Vox has such a priority for both of these teams, but just kind of getting slipped through. I feel like this is something that Mousesports would be more than happy to pick up at this stage.
Yeah, either Vox or Idris would be my calls, or maybe even Blackfeather. So they denied the CP Blackfeather on Rising Lotus side. Weapon Blackfeather is actually pretty good into Grace, but they're going to go ahead with the Vox here. And I think Rising Lotus now, their options most likely will probably be a Blackfeather, but again, Blackfeather is not good against a Lyra because he'll poke them and Lyra will just heal them up.
They could always fall back on the Scarf again.
Yeah,
I
I think the Scarf might actually be a pretty good pick into a Baptiste. It's not a matchup we've gotten to see very much of, but usually heroes that don't need to be highly mobile can do pretty well into Baptiste because the Ordained goes on you and just say, okay, I wasn't planning on moving anyway, so it's cool. And it is going to be that Scarf pickup.
All right, well, those are going to be the compositions rounded out. Out of the 3 games in this series, to me, this feels like the most even compositions up against each other. How do you guys feel about it? Because you guys are the experts.
Yeah, I think it's even. If Scarf, there's nothing you can cancel Scarf's ultimate except for the Fear. So if Agony gets 9 stacks plus and is able to ult and block the Fear, they can actually win this game, definitely in the late game here. And with Arden's Vanguard protecting him, they have a good chance in the late game especially, but early game is going to be really, really rough, and I feel like Mousesports is going to steamroll them early game.
Well, in the lane, they'll have an early game edge on the side of Rising Lotus, but that jungle, Baptiste should be able to just dominate this Scarf. But we've said this multiple times. We saw Scarf 5 times previously. Every single time Scarf comes out in the jungle, we always say, oh, well, you should be able to just go in, shut down the Scarf, and win the jungle early. And only once or twice have we seen a team actually try and do that. So it's really just going to come down to will Mousesports actually be invading the jungle and looking to win that matchup early.
I mean, it had a 60% win rate before, right? And it's won another game, so that's now 66% win rate for Scarf. He's climbing that leaderboard in terms of successful heroes. We'll have to see. Any final thoughts on these 2 compositions before we jump into this game?
Yeah, I think Baptiste or Lyra is going to be too strong. They're going to just snowball it. So I'm going to give this game to Mousesports.
So you think Mouse are going to do in the early game what Rising Lotus did to them last game?
Pretty much.
I want to see Rising Lotus play a little bit safe in the early game. Don't be afraid to give up that early trade. If you're getting invaded and they steal away a couple camps, just back off. Yeah. Don't give them the kills. But as long as they can survive that early game, I think Rising Lotus actually has a chance here.
All right, we'll have to see whether Rising Lotus can take it to Mouse and throw them off of their win streak right here in the European Vainglory 8. Get involved on Twitter. Once again, hashtag Vainglory8 is where you can let us know who you are going to be supporting. We could have an upset on our hands. Let's find out as we head over to the Halcyon Fold.
Thank you very much, Munch. And can they do it? Can they topple Mouse's win streak? We'll have to find out in this game number 3. They are one apiece right now. My name is Jaws, joined by the wonderful AJ. About to get into this one, and hang on a second. There is no Grace. I think both teams are a little bit thankful, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think Grace has proven itself to be just a bit much to deal with in the early game, and I don't think these teams have shown the largest propensity for actually coming back from big early game deficits, and Grace really does create big early game deficits. That second game was a case study in it, right? Like with the strong invade from Rising Lotus just crushing Mouse early game. Mouse, they're going to be fighting a little bit angry, I think, in this third game after showing such strength in week 1 and 2 of the season. Now moving into week number 3 and getting taken down that way in game number 2 of their first series. Definitely something which I think is going to get under their skin a little bit. Rising Lotus, though, they've got to be feeling really good about last game. If they can keep riding that wave, could be good for them. Hell's Devil, though, caught out a little.
Does land. Get away, though. It's all good. He is Arden after all. Just man trying to chase him, but you're going to do negative damage to him, buddy. That doesn't mean they get the control of the Elder Treant, though, so that will go over to Mouse. Every little advantage in the early game is a big one. Go over to I'm the Doom. He's going to back off real fast, and Agony, I think he's going to be happy being back on this Scarf pick. He did absolute wonders with it in game number 2. That perfect game from Rising Lotus against arguably the strongest team in the league right now, and Mouse really just set them up there on the pedestal. We'll see if they push that one the way through. And let's touch on the laning matchup really quickly again. That fell on the Vox against Mercilles on this Gwen. It's going to go in the Gwen in the early game, but you got that Batiste to back you up. It's going to be a little bit of a rough situation, you can imagine. Even
it also really depends on where they decide to spend Lyra's time. Right now, they're actually moving down here. They got to be careful. Mouse does not realize that Rising Lotus is behind them. Rising Lotus, okay, so they don't want to go for the fight. They want to sneak a Treant, it looks like. And they might be able to do this kind of quickly.
That away, it seems. Just like Mouse don't really know what's going on. They don't know it's happened. They will know now. Mojo's going to get thrown out, and Just Man and I'm the Doom on back off. Did try and make a little sneaky play onto Mercilles though, but knowing both of his teammates were down to that bottom side, he did play a little bit more safe. Though, up might just cause him to pop the skedaddle.
See, this is how you contest early game Treants if you're a team that doesn't have the strong 2v2, right? Like, you sneak in. Because obviously, like, Mouse, they're going to try and use Lyra in the lane at some point. They're going to have to take their backs at some point. If you can identify when those times are and take Treant, like, Scarf kills Treant super fast. There are windows of opportunity here, and actually, Rising Lotus are showing, I think in these past 2 games, some of the strongest early game jungling we've seen from an EU team. They really are setting the pace in the early game. They're also pressuring appropriately, not overdoing it. They learned their lesson from game 1 in that sense, because in game 1, they did make a big mistake fighting over a Treant, but now things are a little bit different. Apple's got, oh no, that's not Apple. Mercilles, sorry, has got Tension Bow. Could be good for a skirmish.
Skirmish. Mouse we're trying to look for, but Agony's going to back off with Hell's Devil. Yeah, that Tension Bow pickup is going to be big for him in the lane. Atfel has only got 2 components of an item. Jungle has intensified, and that will mean that Just Man has got the Fountain now as well to his name. So Hell's Devil is a little bit behind in that regard, but still, Mercilles having dominant control over this lane is going to be fairly important to him.
Ooh, Mercilles. Got to be a little bit careful about going for these trades, though, against a Lyra. Yes, you have great upfront damage, but that Imperial Sigil really strong at keeping you healthy. Rising Lotus, one nice thing for them this game is that there's not a ton of pressure on them to accelerate quickly. Scarf is going to be disgusting later in the game. They're kind of relying on Gwen to be Old Faithful here, right? Like, Gwen does not lose easily in the early game. You have Skedaddle to get away from things. You have an Aces High once you hit 6 to disengage. And on top of that, you can actually threaten fights yourself. As a result, it really is difficult for Mouse to accelerate here. Like, look at this. Mercedes just walks away from Ordained, one of the few heroes that can do that pre-6. This is really buying time for Agony to hit the spikes he needs. And they're also going to have a stronger mid-game spike than you'd expect from a Scarf, because Scarf's in the jungle, getting experience quicker than you'd expect, and therefore hitting additional levels of his abilities faster. Mouse, sure, on paper they've got a great late game too, but I don't actually think it's that comparable, at least based on what we saw last game from, for example, the Vox. It was not the Apfel's Vox that we've seen in past weeks. I think Rising Lotus can take this to them here.
Agony definitely wants to take it to Just Man. Now up in that lane, pressuring, has hit that level 6 mark as well. Mercedes on that level 5, as soon as that ace is high, is locked. That's going to open a lot more avenues. Devil, I mean, he has honestly been quite a standout performer on the Arden. It's just a pity last game it was blocked every single time, but his placement of the gauntlet was done a fantastic job of roaming with Agony. I mean, there's not too much to say about the Arden in the early, but I mean, I'm the Doom really is going to have to make some heads-up plays here because, like we saw a minute ago, and like you mentioned, Mercedes is going to be able to just walk out of that Ordained time and time again, so I'm the Doom is going to have to be on point as well. Now Mouse have control of this lane. Does leave Agony to go down to that shop basically for free. So he's going to pick up a Frostburn here.
Frostburn is really good at this point in the game as well, because it stops a lot of the chases that Mouse might try and do. There are ways around that, though. Like, Lyra can just blink on top of you in a lot of these situations where you'd want to be disengaging. So they do have to be careful. Maybe a goop goes down where you expect the Lyra to appear. Hell's Devil, that's pretty deep, buddy.
Yes, it is. Ordained does land. Fountain's getting popped. Oh, my goodness, the damage. Mercedes just pumps it out, and I'm the Doom ends up falling as well. 1-for-1 trade. Dragon's Breath reigning over the rest of Mousesports. They're going to chase them up, though. Skedaddle from Mercedes was available. Didn't want to chase too hard. My God, I'm the Doom. Did not see that coming.
He did not indeed, and I'm not surprised. That was really ridiculous burst damage. When you've got Sarblade Tension Bow at around 7 minutes, you are going to hit that hard, and that's what I was talking about with the mid-game spike. You know, you would not normally expect a Scarf to be level 8 here. You'd expect him to be level 6, because he'd be in the lane. So that, that does mean first overdrive on the Spitfire. You're doing a lot of damage. You got to respect that if you're Mousesports. It's something, you probably don't expect, but you've got to try and think about the ways in which Scarf is going to abuse the edge you get from jungling.
But he can't really find an edge ways in. But do you think he needs to fight right now, though? That's the big question, because Mouse happy to take it to Rising Lotus at this current time, but this massive scaling on the Scarf's pretty big. Mercedes takes a bad mojo, but I'm the Doom. He's just get chunked out by the Spitfire. Agony walking forwards now. Aces High is going to go a little bit wide. They do Crucible it anyway, just in case. Now Hell's Devil, it's his time to shine. The Gauntlet is available to him, and they know Crucible's down. There goes the Gauntlet. I interrupted myself. There we go. I'm the Doom called out, but Just Man in the middle of it is going to use that passageway to safety. Very, very good use of that. And Mouse just a little bit too separated there for Hell's Devil to actually really capitalize on the Gauntlet.
I think, honestly, Mouse doesn't need to try and find any fights right now. They're better waiting for a little bit. But with some cooldowns down, they might want to go in. You just got to respect the disengage here. Like, it's very easy for Rising Lotus, when your Arcane Passage is off, to kite with Frostburn on Scarf. They've got Buckshot from Mercedes. It's a lot of different slows coming out. On top of that, I think really 12 to 15 minutes is when I would feel good as Mousesports is fighting in the mid game. Past that point, you're really looking towards later game team fights and sort of having better vision and setting things up that way. Right now, though, Rising Lotus is just too strong. You can see the damage coming out of Mercedes and Agony is really difficult for Mouse to deal with.
Yeah, only a little bit. I understated that a little bit. He's got a Sorrow Blade and a Tension Bow. He half health that fell almost, and I'm the Doom is not far behind him. He haven't really itemized in too much armor right now. One bit on Apfel. Dane on Hell's Devil, he's just going to wait it out though. And the dude tracked by that turret for a long time, but decides not to take a shot at him. Now with this scarf just building up ever so slowly, and that gauntlet being off cooldown shortly as well. We're looking at seconds on that. Fight again. Now it's just a vision game for both these teams.
Vision is always critical, Jaws. I would like to see more of it from both of these teams, to be honest. I think investment in scout traps has been a little bit light this game, considering how much fighting there has been. There's an opportunity for whichever team makes the decision soonest to really get a lot of scout trap vision down in the jungle. There's been so much pressure in the lane that you pretty much know maybe 70% of the time your opponents will be closer to the lane or by their backs, right? So there's a good opportunity, I think, but it is tough sometimes to make that read and take the risk. Right now, Rising Lotus, I actually think they could afford to push the tempo a little bit more here. They do have enough damage to really be a bit more aggressive. They can find that opening to get onto the turret. They're going to kill it very fast. That's something which will start to snowball the game in your favor in a very big way.
I mean, you could argue that for both teams, really. Rising Lotus, they want to make a look in here, but maybe Mercedes needs to blow that Aces High first off, and then maybe try and force out the Gauntlet, force out the Crucible even, and then come in with the Gauntlet. They have no tools for again, but Passageway is just so good and so vital for this Lyra. It's very hard for Hell's Devils to do his job, which is just a Gauntlet machine. Getting one off. Every cooldown is off. Cooldown. Every cooldown is off cooldown. Yeah, that makes sense. And both these teams want to look to fight here. Gold Miner is also full as well. So the next team fight will secure not only a kill, a damage onto the turret, it will also secure the gold mine, you can imagine. That Ordain does come out, finds Hell's Devil again, but nothing, no massive follow-up for either.
It's very difficult to find a window here, mostly because if you engage as Mouse onto Rising Lotus, well, the disengage is strong and they're by a turret. Oh, here we go.
Here's the Gauntlet. It's going to get blocked, but he's still going to get stuns.
Nice
Here
stun.
comes the massive Dragon Breath onto 3 people. Agony melting through. The Crucible was popped, but so was the Fountain to keep them alive. Now, the disengage here. Haven't used the Passageway just yet. Just Man does have that one, just in case they do want to go for anything more risky. 3 big ultimates down now for Rising Lotus, but they still have control of this lane. I mean, both of these sides are just kind of hesitant a little bit to follow up in any of these.
It's difficult to fully commit here for either team, especially in that positioning for Mousesports. But Rising Lotus, one thing you'll notice there is that the damage didn't feel the same from Mercilli specifically. Agony still felt like he was doing a lot of work, but Mercilli's really needs a bit more itemization to be where he was at earlier. He had, at around 7 minutes, I think, Starblade Tension Bow. He still has that for his offensive items. Everything else on top has been defensive or utility. So it really means that Agony is putting the brunt of the damage up, and he only just finished Broken Myth. That was a poorly timed fight for Rising Lotus to be able to get anything concretely done. For Rising Lotus, it's perfect time, and as I said earlier, 12 to 15, this is kind of the window. That being said, now with Broken Myth and Breaking Point, maybe that window was really just 12. Right? Like, it's kind of difficult for Mouse, I think, to win the next one. Maybe the one after that is a little easier. They do have the Breaking Point of their own and an Atlas Pauldron.
Big item spikes coming across the board, really. Doom has got the Aegis as well. But that Broken Myth is going to be fairly important. That sustained damage ramp up is so key after truly come online. Time for Mouse to make a proactive move. Gauntlet was down, is up now. Back on those calls. Going to be another big fight. I mean, the only question is who is going to take that next kill. Gold Miner was taken by Mouse, so inching ahead in gold in that regard. They're about just under 2,000 at the full mark. Not such a definitive game for either. Got to put it into question right now. Mouse, they've looked so dominant thus far, but Rising Low is really coming up big. Nice start. That was there using the Ordain. Almost goes down. Aces High goes a little bit wide, but that's going to be the Crucible down now for 45 seconds for Mouse.
There's definitely the potential, as there often is with the Batiste, to chain crowd control into a kill. They nearly did that with Hell's Devil there. He needs, I think, to build a reflex block. I kind of surprised that he hasn't yet. Crucible is a big item, a really big item against the Fear from I'm the Doom. Not having one at this point is kind of questionable. I was going to say inexcusable, but I will excuse him. It's just very questionable.
That's very nice of you, AJ.
So I'd like to see Hell's Devil pick that up next. He's pretty far at this point. But, oh man, I don't know. I think with Kraken on the map now, it's pretty critical. You need to buy one. ASAP.
Buy it. PM him right now. Buy it. Buy it, please.
I would if I could.
That wouldn't be tampering at all. There's no way you'd
not
that
at
would be
all.
seen as tampering. Giving him helpful advice. Buy it.
All right, well, let's talk a bit about that and how it actually pertains to some of these fights, though. Although we do have a pause, we'll get back to the game shortly. I think it's important to realize that if Rising Lotus goes for a fight now, they have the damage and defense in the sense of sort of tankiness to win these fights. But against both the silence, the fear, and to a certain extent the bulwark, there's a big window of opportunity for Mouse to find a pick. So they need to... I'd say Mousesports, if they've identified this, and it took me a while to realize because it's just so strange, right? I think if Mousesports has identified the fact that there's no Crucible, they need to just go. They need to go for a fight right now and get a Kraken. Because they're not going to lose a fight. They might not find a kill, but I don't think they lose a fight with Crucible not on the side of Hell's Double.
I mean, you say that. You say they're not going to lose the fight, but during game number 1, I mean, looking at fights from Mousesports that weren't necessarily in their favor, but they still managed to turn it around. We do have a player with a connection issue, so we are obviously just in pause still, but regardless of that, we can still look ahead into the later stages. We're at 15 minutes. We're approaching like critical mass. Both of these have a lot of defensive items on Just Man. He's got the Atlas Pauldron, he's got Crucible, and he's got the Fountain. But then you look at Agony's build. We've got Broken Myth online. We've got the Frostburn since like 5 minutes, whatever. Now building into more Crystal Power. It opens up, and with that classic old age combo of Gauntlet into Dragon's Breath, it's so hard for Mouse to actually go for that massive ring. So squishy. Defensive items not really there for either Atfil or I'm the Doom, right? Attacking more defense rather than going full offense in their screen.
Yeah, I think that the pressure cooker is big, like you were saying, right? The Gauntlet combo with the Dragon's Breath. But at the same time, I do think there's a lot of, again, without the Crucible, like, let's say you make that play, well, you're relying entirely on Agony to reflex block crowd control to start, to avoid the Dragon's Breath being canceled. It's honestly not that hard for I'm the Doom to even maybe fear Hell's Devil out of his own gauntlet, and therefore stop that combo from working effectively anyway. Also, Hell's Devil, he has just picked up a reflex block, but without the Crucible, Mercilli's only has, his Skedaddle and Aegis. He's quite short range. If he's trying to get damage onto the back line, it could be challenging for him to find the perfect positioning. So I think that Rising Lotus have a lot of tools, but they don't necessarily have the correct enabling of those tools right now. But, after this pause, anything could happen. It's 1-for-1 at 15 minutes. This is a very different pace from the other games in this series. I'm pretty interested to see who can actually take it home.
We'll have to wait and see. I mean, even look at the gold lead here, 31k to 30. Only 1,000 between them, and game number 1, Mouse were ahead 5k. Game number 2, 10k in lead at 60 minutes for Rising Lotus. Very, very different game, like you said.
Did you say
Goes
10k
maybe
in
to
the
the-
lead? Did I mishear that?
10k. They were 10,000 gold in the lead.
Right.
So, extremely different game.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Kraken's on the map now, so all of these plays have a lot more impact as well. Moving forward, this is something we got to talk about for sure. The vision we mentioned earlier on is going to be more and more impactful. Currently, the only scout traps that I'm seeing, and perhaps I'm missing some, are one in each of the tri-bushes for the team that belongs to, that tri-bush belongs to. So really, I don't think either team can afford to be particularly aggressive until they fix that. And there they do it. Mouse, they pop the trap and they're like, okay, let's start hitting the Kraken, I guess.
Well, let's just carry on with that. I think I've frozen a little bit, AJ, so you're going to have to quickly...
All right, I
Take
will
over.
do double duty until you're back, Jaws. Just let me
Very
know.
much.
Agony has picked up an Eve of Harvest. That is a great item for a Scarf, obviously. Is going to keep him healthier in these fights, although Apfel's Poison Shiv mitigates that somewhat. We are seeing now the Crucible from Hell's Devil. I like the fact that he picked that up right after I mentioned it. Really, really smart item against the comp he's going into. Although, he needs to be careful not to have to burn it just to get away solo. Whoa, Apfel!
Whoa,
what are you doing,
Apfel
buddy?
taking a lot of damage. Hang on
Alright,
a
sounds like
second
you're
here.
back.
I'm back in the game. Don't worry. I've got it from here, AJ. The play-by-play segments are mine. Mouse going a little bit aggressive there. Apfel taking a fair bit of damage, but doesn't matter. Just Man's there with the HP, the heals. On turrets, though, still a lot of pressure could be put on Mousesports right now. Rising Lotus not making much massive use of that, with that turret being down, you could argue here.
Yeah, Rising Lotus, okay, they've got the turret down, but without scout traps to supplement that vision that your opponents lose, you can't do much with the pressure that you gain. So they do really need to invest if they want to make use of it, especially given that they don't have very mobile heroes. It's hard to peek your head in to the enemy jungle safely. Right now, though, it's just kind of a poke war by the Kraken. It's a dance around it to see who can find that edge, that damage that actually sticks. If Rising Lotus take damage, they don't have a Lyra, you know, they can't sustain it back up. But, on the other hand, Mouse has a bit more leeway to work with here. Although Ordained being popped so early in the fight could be a go signal, honestly, for Rising Lotus.
No, because Hell's Devil took a lot of damage. Sillies, though, on the sidelines. There comes the gauntlet. There comes the damage. Just Man in the back line, very, very low. But Mercedes is surrounded by Mousesport. And now Agony with the flank, with the Dragon's Breath onto 3 people. Now Hell's Devil is split up. They're both on the either side of this fight. Agony's going to be able to find one. Either do go really low. 2-for-1 trade right now. Apfel really low. Agony's going to be able to chase him down and cut him up. Or I should say burn him down. Agony now chasing I'm the Doom. He knows where he is. Hasn't really got any method to chase him up. Agony with a beautiful flank there with the Dragon's Breath.
This is one of the scariest things about fighting into a double threat composition. Quite frequently you'll see comps which are like, okay, we've got like an on-hit Glaive with an Afterburn Storm Crown, we've got an Arden as our defensive captain, and then we've got like a Hyper Carry in the lane. Those compositions are very single-minded. You know who you need to kill to win the team fight. When you're playing against double threat, and right now this is very much, you know, you have to worry about Scarf and you have to worry about Gwen, things become a lot less clear-cut, and as a result, someone like Apfel, who's a weapon power Vox and really wants to train someone, has to pick correctly and has to get something done with that training of the target. It's hard for Batiste to actually back up that kind of play. As a result, I think Mouse are ill-equipped to deal with a double threat comp. If they get flanked. If it's more of a straight-up fight, okay, you know, Fearsome Shade does a lot of work, but that's why you need a Crucible, right? This is honestly a challenge for Mouse, I think, that on a surface-level analysis of the comps you wouldn't necessarily spot, but there are positions on the map that Mouse can really not deal with Rising Lotus abusing.
Talking to you about vision as well is quite a touchy subject, it seems. Both of these teams haven't really prioritized too much in vision. But Rising Lotus, they've said, how many have they got? They got a couple, AJ. It might not be the 18+ scout traps you'd want to see, but they're using flares quite readily. And Kraken is going to get started up accidentally by Mouse, and now Rising Lotus are going to back off as well. Now is the Kraken dance, really, isn't it? Rising Lotus moving up, getting vision down, Mouse coming forward, chucking out a couple of flares, taking their fronts, maybe stretch back, take their backs if they can, but then they go up lane priority, and now it is the go time. They need to pull the trigger. And Rising Lotus's plan last time was perfect. They saved a little bit of their engagement, a little bit of their, you know, DPS in terms of Agony's ultimate to the very end of the fight, and managed to just catch Mouse completely off guard.
Okay, Hell's Devil. I don't know why he popped the stun there, but here comes a fight.
Oh, here comes the gauntlet. Nice double stun. Crucible's not going to work. Dragon's Breath onto 3 members
Double
of Mouse.
kill.
They're melting. Fearsome Shade just did absolutely nothing. And Apple is just going to get burned alive. Agony's going to chase him. That Vanguard's going to speed him up. Crystal Sentry trying to get some action, trying to get something in. But that's going to be an ace for Rising Lotus. And they're going to set their sights on the Kraken.
All right, so I'm going to give Hell's Devil that. I think walking into the Ordained wall actually baited Mouse a little bit, but Mouse should not have been baited by that. I mean, that was not a position you want to fight in. Very easy for Agony to get 3 people inside the Dragon's Breath. That was pretty absurd damage. At this point, you know, I said that I felt like 12 to 15 minutes again, just to reiterate, was the window for Mousesports. You know, they weren't going to be able to compete with this Scarf in the late game. I stand by that, especially now that there's a Reflex block on Agony and a Crucible on Hell's Devil. How do you lock him down? And on the flip side, how do you deal enough damage to him? You can't. You can't. Like, Apfel can't get there. He can't get to the back line and stay there. He doesn't have someone like an Arden backing him up. Lyra does not do the same thing. Now with the Kraken pushing, Rising Lotus look like they might make a huge upset here, Joss. If they take down Mouse in round 1, that's absolutely, like, just no one would have expected that going in. I think that Mouse, because of came first 2 weeks in a row, still technically tie for first in most scenarios because of the 1 win they picked up in the series. But still, you know, they would have liked to do that TSM performance, right? Have that massive win. Here comes an engagement.
Just Man using that portal, but they're all standing on that Spitfire. Here comes the Dragon Best. The Fearsome Shade is going to get blocked. Agony hasn't got his damage tools available to him. The Gauntlet is going to get unleashed. And Apfel falls. First casualty of the fight. Mercedes is out of the fight as well, so it's a 2v2. I'm the Doom doing a lot of damage to those bad mojos. And Agony is very, very low. I don't know, man. He's just wandering around. He's trying to take the turrets. The Kraken's just knocking on their base at the moment. One turret's going to go down. I will be Ordained actually picking up the kill. And there's still 2 members alive. Just Man taking a fair bit of damage. Agony on the back line. Those bad mojos are really, really retching at Hell's Devil. That Kraken's not going to go down quickly, though. And all they can do is provide a massive distraction. Ordained's going to come out. It's not going to stun up Ebony. Agony just turns around and says, you know what? Take the fight to me. Fearsome Shade is going to fear both of them. Another turret is going to get destroyed. And that Kraken is just knocking down this crystal.
It is. I don't know if it's really going to be enough. I mean, Apfel's now respawned yet. It's probably not going to be. But that was like a 3-turret push coming in from Rising Lotus. So they've done the damage that they needed to do. Yeah, the goals have been a little bit closer now, probably, for Mouse. But I don't think Rising Lotus mind too much. The good news here for Mouse is that, you know, they're not really at risk of a backdoor. That's not something Scarf does. But they do need to be very careful on the map here, and this is the opportunity for Rising Lotus to cement the victory.
What a game this has been. It's been on a knife's edge for the longest time. It was 1-1 in kill score for both of these teams up until the 16-minute mark. Now it's 4-7 at 24 minutes with Agony really just popping off. I mean, I'm the Doom is trying to subdue him as much as he can, but Rising Lotus with a true standout performance, you have to say. 6 points Mousesports are currently sitting at on the board, and Rising Lotus have 6. They are shaking Mouse's confidence right now.
You know, you do have to question a little bit that last fight, though, because Mouse, they nearly killed Mercilles with just Apfel. If I'm the Doom had helped, maybe they actually find the kill, or if Apfel had gone for Agony, maybe they find that kill, because Agony was feared up in the middle of the fight. The split focus is the bane of any team playing into a double threat comp. You have to kill one and then the other. It's not going to work otherwise. Right now, though, Rising Lotus, they're abusing the fact that they've got pressure on the map. They're starting to push up here.
Starting to push up. Will they get a flank off, though? Alright, it's taking a little bit of damage, but it's going to hit that up in no time. Harvest after all. Tier 3 boots, though. As soon as he gets those, it'll be 1 speedy. But Mouse, they need to make a proactive move, and we spoke about this Crucible usage earlier on in the game. That it's very easy to kind of block this gauntlet, but the way Hell's Devil has been placing them is almost impossible for Just Man to tap the Crucible at the right time in order to get the stun blocks. In fact, he's been doing it after more often than not, and this is just opening up massive avenues here for Rising Lotus to come back. I don't even want to say come back. I mean, just win. They've not been behind. They perfect gamed them game number 2. They're forcing their way down the lane now. Mouse need to turn the gear up.
They really do. Agony also has a very specific way he needs to play in these fights, so I think we should talk about that real quick, because it's getting to the point where there's enough shielding. Oh, hang on. Mouse wants to go in.
No, they want to go in. They're going to go in hard. Nice passageway. Massili's is going to be able to get out of there. Gauntlet's going to come down. Beautiful stun onto Just Man.
He's just going for
that passageway. Yeah, he's just going for the win. I'm not sure how much damage he's going to be able to do, though, because I'm the Doom. He's going to be here. Nice stun. In fact, that reflex ball was a little bit late. Here comes S1W3. He's trying, but Atfel is just pushing him away. That's at half HP now. Make it a third. He is going to go down, but Agony's going to be here as well. Is he going to be able to burn this crystal down? They're going for the win, and they're not going to find it. Mouse come back with the ace. Oh my goodness, and they tie the gold lead up as well.
Can you finish up, Jaws? I just need to have a moment.
Oh.
No, but in all seriousness, like what? Well, that was such a bold attempt. Why not just fight? I can't. I don't even. Anyway, Mousesports, they've just been gifted an awfully nice comeback opportunity. Free turret there. Oh, free Kraken in the middle map too. Maybe they'll get some free farm too.
Free everywhere.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on anymore.
On one hand, though, maybe if Agony had gotten there just a touch sooner, it would have looked a little different. I mean, it was close. Let's give them that. It was close, but it was unnecessary. That's the important part. Like, even if you played that perfectly and won, why would you take that risk when you could just play safely and win? Now Mousesports has just been, I mean, this is the golden ticket. This is Charlie's Chocolate Factory right here. They have such a good opportunity to pick up a win and stay in such a dominant position in the league. Rising Lotus could have been the team to upset them. They still could, but they need to play perfectly here. At least they have Scarf. Great hero at taking down Kraken.
Yep, he's going to burn him alive. Kraken stepping on some very harsh coals. Or fireworks in that skin at least. That turret is going to go down. Like you said, Mousesports are in a very good position now to take this game off the hands and see if they want to do it. S1W3 is going to get caught up in this Ordained. The burst damage coming out from Mouse is big. The massive water as well isn't going to do too much. As he's have to run for his life. Here comes the Dragon Breath. The Kraken is still knocking on the doors. Dragon Breath on 3 people. Fearsome Shade to cancel that ability out completely. Mouse have knocked down 1 turret. They're still looking for the win here. The Kraken will fall very, very soon. Felt just still knocking on these turrets. S1W3 can't do all too much, but Agony can. Massili's is going to fall though. Atfel is so low. The Kraken is going to knock on the doors, and I think they've done it. Mouse have come back in this game and remain the top of the VG8 here in Europe.
Don't worry though, Jaws. Agony's still got his Aegis. He can use it. No, I'm just like, okay. 2 fights in a row, he missed blocking the fear. And both times it stopped him from finding good Dragon's Breaths. That could be the difference, and I think it probably was the difference in both of those fights. Really rough game for Rising Lotus. They got to be kicking themselves, but they should also feel good about how close they were to taking down Mouse. If they tighten up their game heading into week number 4, maybe they can, push a little bit deeper in the bracket.
Feels good, man, for Rising Lotus, but Mouse still on top. Guys over on the desk gonna have to break that down more because that game just gave me a heart attack.
Guys, I mean, you mentioned that your heart attack, Jaws. My heart is absolutely broken for Rising Lotus after that game. It so could have been an upset for them. They could have moved on in the bracket. Mouse are going to take it in the end. Let's take it right back to the start with the draft. The Scarf came through, which, we were unsure about. It's been doing relatively well in the Vainglory8. Talk to me about the draft. What went wrong here for Rising Lotus in the end?
Oh, it was the end of